Okay, this is your warm-up review for week 8. Remember, if you did not make a 70% or better, you need to copy it down on a sheet of paper and give it to me. Okay, the first problem was 64 and 32 hundredths. Remember, you got to line up your decimal. Minus 21 and 63 hundredths. So as I'm doing this, I cannot subtract 2 minus 3, so I have to borrow. Mark out the 3, make that a 2. That becomes a 12. So 12 minus 3 is 9. Again, I can't do the 2 minus 6, so I have to borrow from the 4, which becomes a 3. That's a 12. So 12 minus 6 is 6. Bring your decimal down. 3 minus 1 is 2. 6 minus 2 is 4. And then I have to add the 10 to this. Remember, there's always a decimal at the end, so I got to line up my decimals. And then I'm going to add. So when I get my answer, I get 9, 6, decimal, 2, 5. So my answer to number 1 is 52 and 69 hundredths. Okay, for number 2, again, I like to put the decimals at the end so I know how to line it up and I don't have a problem. So it's 24 plus 16 plus 3. I like to put a 0 there. I'm just going to add. So 4 plus 6 is 10, plus 3 is 13. Do not forget to carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. So my answer is 43. Okay, number 3, you had to multiply first. So I'm going to do 13 times 4. So when I do 13 times 4, I'm going to do 4 times 3, which is 12. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So I get 52, and I'm going to add the 14 again. I like to put my decimals there, so I know what I'm doing. 4 plus 2 is 6. 5 plus 1 is 6. So my answer to number 3 is 66. Okay, for number 4, it says 4 and 2/10 divided by 3. Make sure you set this up correctly. 4 and 2/10 is your dividend. 3 is your divisor. Since my divisor is a whole number, I just move my decimal up to my quotient. Now I just divide. 3 will go into 4 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. Bring down the 2. 3 will go into 12 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. Subtract, I get 0. So my answer is 1 and 4/10. Okay, number 5, I'm adding fractions, and we're going to have more of these like this. So number 5, I'm adding unlike fractions, so I have to find a common denominator. So I'm going to do my LCM. I'm going to put the 6 and 4 in my sled. I'm going to factor out a 2 since they're both even. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 4 2 times. The only thing that goes into 3 and 2 is 1, so I'm done. GCF is to the left, but LCM is all of them. So as I multiply that, I'm going to get 12 for my common denominator. Now, I have to find my numerators. Since I know that 6 times 2 is 12, I'm going to multiply 4 times 2, which is 8. So I get 8 12s. Since I know 4 times 3 is 12, I'm going to multiply 3 times 3, which is 9. Now that I got common denominators, I can add the 2 together, and I get 17 12s. And 17 12s is an improper fraction. So I'm going to divide it out. 12 does not go into 1. 12 will go into 17 one time. When I subtract, I get a 5. Remember, I go clockwise. So my answer is 1 and 5 12s. Okay, number 6 is subtracting unlike fractions. And it's a little bit more difficult because I got a mixed number there. So what I'm going to do when I subtract, I like to line them up just like my decimals. To me, that's a little bit easier to do it more vertical. You don't have to, but I find it easier. Again, I'm going to put 6 and 5 in my sled to find out what goes into 6 and 5. I'm doing my LCM. The only thing that goes into it is 1, so I'm already done. GCF is to the left, and LCM is all of them. So I'm going to use my common denominator, which is 30. So now I'm going to rewrite this one, but this time with a denominator of 30. So now I'm going to work this out. I know that 6 times 5 is 30, so I have to do 4 times 5, which would be 20. I know that 5 times 6 is 30, so I'm going to do 3 times 6, which is 18. Now that I have common denominators, I can actually subtract. I'm going to leave 30. I'm going to say 20 minus 18 is 2. 2 minus nothing is 2. So now I got 2 and 2/30. 2/30 can be simplified. I know that 2 will go into 2 one time. 2 will go into 30 15 times. So my answer is 2 and 1/15. Okay, number 7 was multiplying fractions. I do not need a common denominator. I can just multiply straight across. So 4 times 5 is 20. 9 times 3 is 27. The only thing that would go into 20 and 27 is 1. So I'm done. That is my answer. So on number 8, I'm dividing fractions. So you got to remember the KCF. So that means keep the first fraction, change division to multiplication, and flip the second fraction, which is 5/6. Now, if you don't like to simplify, I like to simplify first. If not, you're going to get 30 over 60, and I can simplify that all the way down to 1/2. If you did not know how I did that, I like to cross simplify. What goes into 6 and 6? 6, one time, one time. What goes into 5 and 10? 5. 5 goes into 5, 1. 5 goes into 10, 2. And then when I multiply, 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Your answer is already in simplest form. So make sure you always simplify. Okay, number 9 was a word problem. So you had to do some work first. It says Alicia wants to buy a camera that costs $228. So that's the total cost of the camera, including tax. She has already saved $4.75 for 8 weeks. So I'm going to multiply $4.75 times 8. So 8 times 5 is 40. 7 times 8 is 56 plus 4. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 6 is 38. Remember, you move your decimal over 2 places. So I start here, move it over 2 places, and she has already saved $38. Now, if the camera costs $228 and she saved $38, it's asking you how much more does she need to spend. So I'm going to do $228 minus $38. So as I do 8 minus 8, I get 0. I cannot do 22 minus 3, so I have to borrow. And it's 12 minus 3, so I get the 9. And then 1 minus 0 is 1. So my answer is 190, which on the problem is D. And number 10, to me, was the hardest one on here. Sammy bought 4 rows of tape to seal boxes. Each row contains 32 and 9/10 meters. So I'm going to multiply 32 and 9/10 times 4. So as I multiply 9 times 4, I get 36. 4 times 2, I get 8 plus 3 is 11. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1 is 13. I have 1 digit behind the decimal, so I move it over 1 time here. So now I have 131 and 6/10. He uses 1 and 2/10 meters for his to seal each box. So I'm going to divide 131 and 6/10 by 1 and 2/10. Remember, I have a decimal in my divisor, so monkey see, monkey do. If the monkey moves 1 to the left, 1 to the right, he moves 1 to the right here, and then climbs up to the roof. So I'm going to rewrite this problem because this is kind of sloppy. So I have 12 now as my divisor, and I have 1,300 316 as my dividend. So now I'm going to divide. 12 does not go into 1. 12 will go into 13 one time. Bring down the 1. 12 will not go into 11. Bring down the 6. 12 will go into 116 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18, and that is a 10. As I subtract, I get 9, which is 9/12. So I'm going to round down. So my answer is 109 boxes, which is A. Remember, make sure you put your name on this, put warm-up 8, and turn it into me by Tuesday.